Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire. Today we are joined by Jarrod Burguan. He is the police chief for the city of San Bernardino. And sir, I have watched you over the last couple months since the tragedy of December 2nd, and all I can say is the grace with which you handle the situation is admirable. And if there's a word better than admirable, I apologize, I can't find it now. But I do want to talk about that day and get a sense, a few months out now, of how you and the community is doing. Talk to me about what happened on December 2nd, the moment you heard something was amiss.
Well, when I actually got word, I was in a meeting at City Hall with the city manager.
Okay.
And my cell phone went off. And after a couple attempts to get a hold of me, I finally answered the phone. And it was one of my captains that had said that, Chief, we have an active shooter situation at the Inland Regional Center. We're on our way now. So that was literally at the point that everybody was just responding.
Did you have a sense what that meant? Did we have an active shooter? I mean, that could mean one person in a domestic violence situation. Tragic.
Yeah, well,
or is it, or do those buzzwords mean something?
In the business, active shooter means something.
Okay.
So, a shooting, so to speak, and we, unfortunately, we're no strangers to shooting incidents in the city. That usually goes out as just a shooting.
I understand.
And pretty quickly thereafter, our dispatchers get information. When they use the words active shooter, that's very rare, and that's a dynamic thing.
So did you then go to the scene? Is that how it works?
I did. I left City Hall. I got there, probably arrived about 10 to 15 minutes after the initial call. Pretty chaotic at the time.
Sure.
A lot of police officers were coming into the area. A lot of mutual aid was coming in from the sheriff's department and other surrounding police agencies. A lot of probation folks were already on scene, and it was a very dynamic, quickly unfolding type of situation.
At what point did you realize this is a day that will change San Bernardino forever? Did you have a sense almost immediately upon arrival that this was no ordinary shooting? This was an act of abhorrent nature?
Well, pretty quickly thereafter, trying to get a sense of everything. The folks that were outside where I was, where we were setting up an initial command post, it was a little difficult to get details. We knew that we had people down. We knew that there were victims, but we didn't have a sense at that point as to how many or what the true situation was inside. And there's a dynamic to these types of calls in the way that law enforcement works, is that the first wave of officers, if they believe the suspect is still there, they've got to search and find the suspect first. So the first wave of officers were going in and doing that, and it was the second wave of officers coming in that were tending to the victims and trying to get them help and assistance.
Let me ask you about the officers.
Yeah.
Because it is undeniable that these officers acted heroically is an easy word, but they really acted with a depth of compassion that is hard to muster even in the most trying circumstances. Yeah. We've seen the cell phone video. I actually can feel myself getting worked up a bit about it, but we see the cell phone video about how that particular officer was dealing with such empathy. Why? How? What went right?
In that particular case, that was a deputy that was heard on tape there, and he was doing whatever he could to just put people at ease. That was in the process a little bit after the incident when they were clearing some of the subsequent buildings, where he had put that messaging out, and that really resonated with a lot of folks.
Let me ask you though about your officers today, because look, we think of the men and women of law enforcement as rocks of steel, but they're human beings.
Oh, sure.
And while I have no doubt they dealt, and we know they dealt with the situation with the utmost in professionalism, they have to go home at night. Yeah. And they have dreams and nightmares. How are they doing? How are you doing?
Overall, we're doing okay. I think, first of all, I think that the men and women of the organization, of the profession, they're proud of how they handled it. I think you take the darkest of situations, as that day was, and they managed it probably about as well as it could have been managed.
Well, again, I don't mean to be a sycophant, but from what I have been told, they managed it better than well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just, I don't mean to be a cheerleader, but this is what I hear and see.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks that feel that way. I think internally we know that it was organized chaos. It wasn't this perfectly orchestrated response that I think the world may have perceived in some
And
ways. When you're in the middle of
right.
it is organized chaos.
But let us remember, too, this is a police force that has been eviscerated by a bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I mean, so to think that you did even average would be admirable, but your team went above and beyond. And so let's jump to you, if I may, and talk about how you were then thrown in front of the international media. It's bad enough to be thrown in front of me, but you were in front of the international media. And, you dealt with the situation with tremendous poise. And I presume that was not easy. In addition to the lights, these are your neighbors. I don't know if you knew anyone personally, but still, they're your neighbors.
Yeah. There were, I didn't know anybody personally, but there was definitely 1 or 2 degrees of separation
Right.
with quite a few people in that situation. The national media, I had a little bit of an advantage. I spent a little bit of time early in my career as a PIO.
Oh, okay.
So I had a little bit of
good,
experience
okay.
in front of the
Who
media.
knew?
Not to that degree,
Right.
obviously, and none of us have really ever experienced quite that intense
Right.
of coverage. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I gave it a whole lot of thought. It
Probably
was
for
just
the best.
a matter of going out there and putting information out as best that we could. It was more important to me that we were right and we were trying to put accurate information out and that we were trying to be transparent, all things considered.
Were you surprised by the adulation, by the absolute reverence that you received?
Yeah.
I mean, the media is not used to giving praise, and yet
Yeah, that has been a little
surprising.
A little surprising on
Right.
my part.
So let's talk about the aftermath.
Yeah.
We quickly learned that the perpetrators were of the Islamic faith, and members of the Islamic faith have been, I'll use the word, scapegoated in this nation, and there are many Muslim neighbors in San Bernardino that were probably scared.
Yeah.
Remember after 9/11, Sikhs were being attacked because people didn't know the difference between Sikhs and Muslims. We saw many people of the Islamic faith at the 66 Stadium during the vigils. How did you work to protect your Muslim neighbors and really everyone in the wake of the incident?
So we did a couple of things. First of all, I think it was important that us, from a leadership standpoint, that we didn't engage in the negative dialogue in terms of pointing fingers at an ethnic group or a certain part of the population. And then on the other end, we really reached out to them. So there was a concerted effort by law enforcement to actually reach out to the local mosque and make ourselves available to any and all. We were invited to events in Riverside and Chino at various mosques, and we did not turn any of those invitations down. We were more than happy to participate in those things to show that there really is a community here. And there's individuals that are responsible for this, and they may have done it for the wrong reasons, or they may have tried to hide behind the notion of religion or some extreme ideology, but we understand that not everybody is connected to that.
You proceeded, I believe, to meet the president. Did you meet him on the tarmac?
No, I did not.
Okay, but you were invited to the State of the Union.
I was
so
invited
you
to
saw
the
the
State of the Union.
president.
I saw the president. I actually met the president yesterday.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah,
well, there you have
very,
it.
very brief photo
Were you
opportunity in Rancho
sitting
Mirage.
next to the First Lady? I'm trying to remember what happened to the State of the Union.
No, there was somebody from the incident that was invited, was with the First Lady. The way the State of the Union works is everybody has a ticket. You're in possession of a ticket.
Oh, I see.
So I was in possession of an assembly member's ticket from Southern California that had donated it to Congressman Aguilar.
Right.
Myself and the sheriff were invited. We were sitting separately, but up in the balcony, obviously, and maybe a little left of center.
Still a treat.
Absolute incredible experience.
I want to say I thank you for the service that you've given to San Bernardino, not just on December 2nd, but over the last 2 years as chief and the last 24 years as a member of that force, because while one incident can make a career, you've been there for quite a long time, and I salute you. His name is Jarrod Burguan. He is the police chief of the city of San Bernardino. We are SB Strong. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter Local Edition.